think that Batman Returns is more nightmarish, if I can say that. Even though it's not as violent, but I mean, like the look of the Penguin, some of the stuff that does happen in the film,
like the hypersexuality stuff.
Yeah, the movie's kind of kinky, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, the movie's kind of kinky. But yeah, it's the sexual innuendos. And then the first one had some. I mean, Nicholson's got a couple of decent lines where it's pretty overtly sexual. But I think that why Batman Returns gets singled out is because it's a little bit more nightmarish in its presentation. But I don't think that it's any more violent than the first one. But yeah, you're right. The backlash to all that is what leads to Joel Schumacher and a candy-colored neon Batman that he has for Batman Forever and especially Batman and Robin. But those movies are trash.
Even I don't know if you read this, but George Clooney came out recently saying that he knows Batman and Robin is bad and that he thinks he's shitty in the movie.
Hey, he's been knocking himself on that for years, and I mean he's not wrong. He's absolutely right because he's awful in the movie. But the thing that he's openly admitted with Batman and Robin is that made me a lot of money that I don't have to worry about doing stuff for paychecks anymore.
Uh-huh.
It gave him a little bit more clout to kind of do what he wanted to do, to eventually, move into directing, which I think all of his movies that he's directed have been for Warner Brothers. So I know that he's been open as to saying that even though I did this movie and it was bad and I probably knew it was bad, it gave me the opportunity to do these other things, which, a favorite of ours is Robert Pattinson, who, did all the Twilight movies, is probably not very good in them from what I've seen, but it gave him the opportunity to focus on doing whatever he wanted after that because he had the paycheck already. And then what he does after Twilight movies is always, interesting work. And he's been very good in a number of films.
Yeah.
But Twilight is what gave him the opportunity to pick and choose what he wants to do.
Yeah, that was a great strategy because I don't think everything post Twilight, I think, has been at least a solid attempt. Every project has been great, or he's at least great in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Or he's, even though maybe the movie isn't really great, he's gotten the opportunity to work with a lot of different directors. He worked with David Cronenberg a couple of times.
Yep.
He had that opportunity to work with them. I think even the guy who made The Rover, David Michod. If I'm saying that right, Michaud. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing it. But it gave him the opportunity to work with him a couple of times. So it's sometimes if you're an actor or a director, it's kind of like, I'm going to make this because it's going to be a big hit, and that's going to give me the opportunity to do what I want later on. With Burton, it was kind of like, if I do Batman, it's going to give me the opportunity to make these smaller, more personal films later on. And he's, especially right after the success of Batman, that's exactly what he does, is make these more intimate films.
Yeah, I don't think Burton's definitely not an action guy, and I feel like even though the action sequences in Returns are good, I feel like that's not really what he wants to be focusing on.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of a knock against both of those movies, is that he's not really an action director.
Yeah.
But, by the way, speaking of a director who's fallen off, Tim Burton is definitely one of them.
What has he done lately?
He did Dumbo, which was, I believe, the last movie he did.
I haven't seen it yet. It's not
it's
great?
whatever.
Oh, okay.
It does reunite Danny DeVito and Michael Keaton, though, so that was pretty awesome.
Okay.
I know Danny DeVito's been in a number of his other films, but both Michael Keaton and Danny DeVito are together in Dumbo. Miss Peregrine's School for the Peculiar Children, if I have that title right. Miss Peregrine's School for Peculiar Children.
Tim Burton did that one?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Which I'm not a fan of. And he has had very, very few movies in probably the last 20 years that I really enjoyed, and maybe only 2 of them I did. And that was Big Fish is pretty good, and Big Eyes is pretty solid.
With Christoph Waltz, right?
Yeah. Other than that, I do have kind of a soft spot for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, just because it's very Burton-esque. It's very weird.
Yeah, I feel like it got slammed for being dark again, but it's a fun movie.
Yeah,
from what I remember.
But anything post Sleepy Hollow, he's very, very hit or miss, and probably only the few that I singled out are the ones that I think are worth the shit.
What about his animated, like contemporary animated stuff? Like he did Corpse Bride, right?
Yeah. Corpse Bride's a movie I've only seen once.
Oh, okay.
I haven't watched Frankenweenie. I'm sitting on that one.
Frankenweenie's awesome. That's a great one.
Frankenweenie's good?
Yeah, I liked it.
Okay, I'm sitting on that one because I'm waiting to listen to the Tim Burton miniseries that Blank Check did a couple years ago. I still have yet to listen to it. I probably should have listened to it to get into this, but I didn't want to taint the waters.
I'm assuming you're not a fan of the his envisionment of Alice in Wonderland.
No, honestly, I didn't care for it.
He did the first one, and then he did Through the Looking Glass a couple years ago, right?
I don't think he directed it, though.
He didn't do the second one?
No.
Oh, okay. Huh.
But yeah, I'm not a fan of the first one. But it's, to circle back, it's Batman that kind of gives him the opportunity to make those. I think that that 15-year period, though, between his first movie and Sleepy Hollow, all those movies are great.
I would definitely agree with you, man. Sleepy Hollow's awesome. And it reminds me, because in Batman Returns, from what I remember reading, they saved a lot of the sets from the original 89 movie, correct? They had
the sets, but the original shot in London.
Oh,
and
okay.
I think that they wanted to immediately go into a sequel. Because Batman was huge, and because Burton was kind of on the fence about doing a sequel. I think that's why they waited, because he wanted to go off and do Edward Scissorhands, and they waited. But Batman Returns, I tried to see in the credits if it was shot entirely in Hollywood, but I know that most of it was.
Yeah, they had it was shot on sound stages, and then I think on the Warner Brothers backlot. They shot Warner Brothers backlot, and then sound stages at Warner's and Universal. For I think the Gotham City set was on Warner Brothers lot, or the Gotham Square set is on Warner Brothers lot, and I think the Penguin Lair
underneath the zoo, the Arctic world setting, I believe, was on Universal's lot. Which is weird. I don't know how a competing studio works that out where they let you shoot your movie there. I'd have to look that up. So, as we've mentioned, Burton said he would only do it if he had script approval, and the script had to meet all of his demands. So Sam Hamm, who was one of the co-writers on the original Batman, had written, I think, his first draft, had the Penguin and Catwoman teaming up to look for treasure. That sounds like a stupid idea.
Yeah.
That sounds like some goofy shit that would have been in the Adam West TV show. And as was made very clear by the 1989 Batman, this is not that. This is a much different version of that. So I don't know why they thought the Penguin and Catwoman looking for treasure would make a good Batman movie. So they scrapped that idea. They had some early drafts where Harvey Dent, who makes an appearance in the original Batman, who was played by Billy D. Williams. They had a couple of versions where Harvey Dent became Two-Face in the movie. Billy D. Williams would reprise his role and become Two-Face, I think, towards the end of the movie. And then he would be set up as the villain for a third movie. If my notes are correct, if everything I read was true, then he would have become Two-Face at the climax of the film when Selina kisses him with the taser.
Oh yes.
That would have been the incident that scarred him, and then because that would take place at the climax, that would set up for the third film. But eventually they got rid of the Two-Face character, and a lot of what was the Two-Face character became the Max Schreck role, became Christopher Walken's role. We can talk about it a little bit later, but Walken's doing a lot in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, there's times where he's like pretty subdued in movies, and he's giving you this excellent Oscar-worthy performance, and then there's times where he's just going really big.
Mm-hmm.
And doing like all the Christopher Walken stuff that he can do, and this feels like one of those times. His costume design is wild. He's got the bow ties and the gloves and the crazy double-breasted suits and the weird hair.
And his I don't know if you noticed this detail, but his eyebrows are like kind of
they're kind of fluffy.
Yeah.
Or little
pushed
little
up,
crazy. Bushy. Yeah, bushy is a good term. But yeah, he's doing a lot in the film, and I am not against any of it. But he's great in it. But yeah, that was the Two-Face role, or Two-Face. When they got rid of the Two-Face character, that role kind of folded into Max Schreck. Now, obviously Max Schreck isn't the district attorney, but I don't know how much of that is left over from those earlier drafts that had Two-Face. But the end where he's killed by the taser underneath the power generator was supposed to be Two-Face, or Harvey Dent was going to become Two-Face at that moment. So they go through all these different versions, and then Burton, he's not really happy with Sam Hamm's script, so he brings on Daniel Waters, and Daniel Waters had written Heathers, and I believe he was working on a Beetlejuice sequel with Burton. That's how Burton knew him. Mm-hmm. Was that he was working on this kind of planned Beetlejuice sequel that never happened. But Burton brings him on, and Waters does all the subsequent drafts, and as you mentioned, he's the soul